Now we will look at how to perform addition, subtraction, multiplication and division operations with integers. There are some rules that you can follow to understand how multiplication and division are done. For example, when you multiply two negative numbers together, that means minus multiplied by minus. And if there are two negative numbers that are getting multiplied, the result is a positive number. Let us look at an example to see how that happens. Let us say you are multiplying minus 2 with minus 5. The result will be, first you multiply 2 into 5 and then you put a plus sign before it. So the answer is plus 10. Similarly, if you have a negative number and you are multiplying that with a positive number, the result is a minus. If you take a positive number, multiply that with a negative number, the result is a negative number. And if you take a positive number, multiply it with a positive number, the result is a positive number. Let us look at a few examples to see that. This rule, like we saw, corresponds to multiplying a negative number with a negative number. So minus into minus is equal to a positive number. So what are we doing? To multiply minus 2 into minus 5, we are saying the result is going to be positive and we have to multiply 2 and 5 together. So the answer is plus 10. We can also write this as 10. This is also a valid answer. You don't have to put the plus sign. Now what if you are multiplying a negative number with a positive number? So minus 2 multiplied by 5. According to our rules, this should give us a negative value. See, minus into plus equal to minus. So when you multiply minus 2 with 5, your answer is minus 2 into 5, which is minus 10. So 2 and 5 are multiplied together and the minus sign is placed before it. Now what happens if you multiply a positive number with a negative number? Let's look at our rule. Positive number multiplied with a negative number is equal to a negative number. So 4 into minus 3 is minus of 4 into 3, which is minus 12. Now positive number into positive number, this you have done quite frequently already now. This is 6 into 8, which is 48. So this is a positive number. So this is how you apply rules for multiplication. Now let's look at the rules of division. The rules of division are exactly similar to the rules of multiplication. If you want to divide a negative number with a negative number, so minus divided by minus will result in plus. See, this is very similar to the multiplication rule. Minus divided by plus, that means a negative number divided by a positive number, will give you a negative number. Similarly, a positive number divided by a negative number will also give you a negative number. Plus divided by plus will be a positive number. Let's look at a few examples to understand this. So this is our first example of negative number divided by a negative number. Minus 15 divided by minus 3, which is equal to a positive number. So we have a plus here and we have 15 divided by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So the answer is plus 5, or you can also write it just as 5. Now let's divide a negative number with a positive number. And if you look at our rules, the rules are like this. A negative number divided by a positive number will give us a negative number. So minus 20 divided by 4 is equal to minus 20, and in the brackets we have 20 divided by 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So the answer is minus 5. And when we divide a positive number with a negative number, that means 36 divided by 2 as in this example, the answer is minus is outside, 36 divided by 2. 36 divided by 2 we know is 18. You can do it in your rough work if you want to verify this, and the result is minus 18. Now division of two positive numbers, this is something that you've already done several times. So 12 divided by 6 here results in a 2, and this is the answer. So negative number divided by negative number gives you a positive number. Negative number divided by a positive number gives you negative number. Positive divided by negative gives you negative number. Positive divided by positive gives you a positive number. As long as you remember these simple rules of multiplication and division of integers, you would be able to do most of the negative and positive multiplications. Now let us look at how addition is done. Addition requires a little bit more rules than multiplication and division. There are two types of rules in the case of addition, type 1 and type 2 rules. The type 1 rules are like this. If you are adding two positive numbers, the result will always be a positive number. If you are adding two negative numbers, the result will always be a negative number. And how do you do the addition itself? Add the two numbers, put the positive or negative sign just like it is mentioned above. Let's look at a few examples to understand this type. So here we are adding two negative numbers, -1 plus -2. And the answer is, you take the minus outside and you have 1 plus 2. See, the result of adding two negative numbers, minus and minus, according to our rules is minus. And you take this minus, keep it here, add the two numbers, so that's what we are doing. According to our rule, type 1 rule, we have to take this minus outside, the result is a minus, and we have to add the two numbers. Adding 1 and 2 gives us 3, so the answer is minus of 3. Let's add two more numbers, minus 15 plus minus 10. This will be, you're adding two negative numbers, so the answer is minus 15 plus 10, which is equal to minus 25. Now let's look at the addition rules, type 2. How do we add a positive number with a negative number? What is the result that is obtained? How do we add a negative number to a positive number? The way you do this is, take the smaller number and subtract the smaller number from the bigger number. Now check what is the sign of the bigger number, and the result that is obtained, it will carry the sign of the bigger number. Let's take a look at some examples to understand this. So let's take a look at this example, minus 10 plus 4. So we are taking a negative number and adding it with a positive number. 4 is a positive number and minus 10 is a negative number. What does our rule say? Our rule says, take the smaller number, subtract it from the bigger number. So we have first written that down. We have taken the smaller number and we are subtracting it from the bigger number. And what should be the sign of the result? The sign of the result should be the sign of the bigger number. What is the bigger number here? The bigger number is 10. And what was the sign of this number? Minus 10. So let's take minus here, and this is the answer. The answer is now let's look at another example. 43 minus 56. Now let's see how to solve this. The way to solve this is the following. Again, remember this rule. Take the smaller number, subtract it from the bigger number. What is the bigger number here? 56 minus 43. And what should be the sign? The sign is bigger for 56. So 56 has the minus sign and 43 has the plus sign. So the sign that you should use here for the final result is minus. So let's put two brackets here and put a minus sign. So the answer will be minus of 56 minus 43, and that is 13. And the result will be minus 13. So now let's look at another example. minus 12 plus 27. Again the rule is bigger number minus smaller number. So the bigger number is 27 and you are doing minus 12. And what should be the symbol that needs to come, or the sign that needs to come? The sign is bigger for 27. The sign is positive for the bigger number, which is 27. So the sign will be positive and the result becomes therefore plus of, what is 27 minus 12? 15. And therefore the result is plus 15, or you can also just write this as 15. Let's look at one more example. If you have something like this, 64 minus 32, right? This is just a regular subtraction. So even if you take this bigger minus smaller, the answer will anyway be just 32. And what is the sign? You need to use the sign of 64. And 64 does not have a plus symbol before it, but it does not have a minus as well. If there is no symbol, that means it is a plus. So the answer is plus 32, and you can also write this as 32. Now let's look at something a little bit more interesting. What if you have the number 6 minus 6? This would be 0. But what if you had something different? What if you had minus 6 plus 6? How would you do this? There is no bigger or smaller here. So what you need to do is just take any of the numbers and subtract them. And what is the sign to use? Since both of them are equal, you can put the plus sign. Now this becomes 0. And a sign for 0 doesn't make any sense because 0 does not have a plus or a minus sign. So the final answer is 0. Let's take two more examples before we move on to subtraction. Minus 3 plus minus 3. What is this going to be? There is no bigger or smaller number. So we have to take both. Let's take both of them. But what did our rule mention about adding two numbers like this? What did our rule say about having a minus sign on both the numbers? It says if you are adding two negative numbers, that means minus plus minus is equal to minus. So when you are adding these two numbers, you will take them like this. 3 plus 3 and put a minus sign. And then the final answer becomes minus of 6. Let's take a look at minus 7 plus minus 7. What is the answer going to be? This is going to be minus of 7 plus 7. See, minus and minus being added together will lead to a negative number. So the answer will be minus of 14, which you can also write as minus 14. Now that we've looked at multiplication, division, addition, let's look at how subtraction is done. Subtraction is done by converting the whole process into some form of an addition. Let us look at it by discussing some examples. So let us say we want to do minus 1 minus 3. Now minus 1 minus 3, while it may appear to be subtraction, can actually be converted into addition by doing something very interesting. You can do this. You can say minus 1 plus of minus 3. Why can you do this? Remember, we told you in one of the rules that minus into plus is equal to minus. So even if you write your subtraction like this, it does not make a difference because plus multiplied by minus becomes a minus. So now when you want to evaluate this, how do you solve this problem? You are adding two negative numbers, and what was the rule in addition to do this? The rule in addition was the following. To add two negative numbers, the result is negative, and you just add the two numbers, put the positive or the negative sign as per this rule. So let's just do this for this example. So the answer will be, it's a minus, and within the brackets you have to do 1 plus 3. So the answer is minus 4. Let us say we want to do 5 minus 15. Now how do we solve this? We convert this into an addition by doing a small trick which is very similar to what we did here. We go with the following. We say this is equal to 5 plus minus of 15. And what did we do in addition? We said this is a positive number added with a negative number. Remember the rules of addition? A positive number added with a negative number. You have to subtract the smaller number from the bigger number, put the sign of the bigger number. Let's see how that happens here. What is the smaller number? The smaller number is 5. You're considering absolute numbers here. So 5 minus 15. And what has the sign? 15 has the sign. So the number becomes minus. And the final result is 15 minus 5 is 10. And your answer is minus 10, which can also be written like this. So 5 minus 15 is minus 10. So we have just converted the subtraction into some form of an addition. And then we have obtained the result. Let us say we wanted to do minus 3 minus 5. Then how do we do this? We do this in the following way. We can write this as minus 3 plus of minus 5. And remember our addition rule. When you're adding two negative numbers, what do you do? When you're adding two negative numbers, the result is a negative number. Add the two numbers, put the positive or the negative sign according to this rule. So you just have to add these two numbers. So the result will be minus of 3 plus 5, which is equal to minus 8. Now what happens when we subtract a negative number from another negative number? So what if we want to do the following? How do we do this? Remember, when we open up the brackets, this is what will happen. There is a minus here getting multiplied with a minus. So this will actually become minus 6 plus 3. And why is this so? Remember, we did our multiplication, right? In multiplication, minus into minus is a plus. So what is actually happening here is, this minus is getting multiplied with this minus. And this becomes a plus. And so our answer becomes minus of 6 minus 3. And why are we getting this? If you look at our addition rule, right? When you see a plus being added with a minus, or you see a minus being added with a plus, what should you be doing? Take the smaller number, subtract it from the bigger number, and then put the sign of the bigger number. So what did we do here? You are taking the smaller number, which is 3, subtracting it from 6. And which number had the negative sign? 6 had the negative sign, so that's what we retain. And the answer is 6 minus 3 is 3, so the answer is minus 3. We have shown you some handy rules that you can follow in order to do multiplication, division, addition and subtraction of integers. We showed you that by following these rules, you can apply negative number multiplication with negative numbers. You can do negative number multiplication with positive numbers, and so on and so forth. But how did these rules come out to be? Why are these rules followed? In order to understand these, you should look at some of these videos. This is a Khan Academy video on adding numbers with different signs, and they use the number line to explain how this addition can be done. These are videos on multiplying positive and negative numbers, why multiplication with a negative number even makes sense. This is a video that speaks about why a positive number multiplied with a negative number is a negative, and why a negative number multiplied with a negative number is positive. These make for very interesting videos, and you should definitely watch them.